Hello and welcome to another episode of Rebel City Podcast. What's this now, Matt? 104?
Uh, 103, I think.
Don't know. I think 104. Don't know.
Right.
We'll place bets, 50 pence. You're 103 on 104. But anyway, well, privileged to have again Tom McGuire for Tom McGuire The Brassholes. How's it going, Tom, mate?
Not bad at all. Yeah, thanks for having us on again. Very kind of you.
Not at all, man. It's nice to have you back. It's been a while. I think you were all the way back in episode 20 or so it's been a while.
Yeah, I guess it was a couple of summers ago, yeah.
Aye.
Yes, mate. And also, I think you're only the third returning guest. So thanks for reaching out and letting us know that you're releasing. And
yeah, no worries. It's all part of the campaign trail, isn't it? You know.
Is that?
Yeah, I'm sure it's been very different this time, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I think I know a little bit more about the sort of PR side of it now, and a little bit more time and space to actually get wired right into it. So yeah, a little bit different, a little bit more sort of space, and a little bit more time for overthought. You know.
You've come to the right place then, haven't you?
Yeah. Right.
Aye, I mean, we had James from Las Vegas not so long ago, and he came on with his Iron Brew and his donut. But you've got your vinyl and your guitar in the background, mate. So you're a step ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot of mess over here, so we just returned the camera before we started there. So that's how you do it.
A wee studio trick, mate. So, but I mean, I think it would be probably before we get into like the new music and stuff. Me and Matt both have had a listen, and we'll talk about that in a wee bit. But how's lockdown been for you, mate?
It's been all right, and also been terrible. What's the score? We're swearing in this podcast.
Oh, whatever you like, mate. Aye,
it's been all right, and it's also been shite. Right?
Aye.
So equal parts. I guess it's pretty much a year now, isn't it? I mean, when it started out, I was a little bit frantic, a little bit hectic. I kind of work a little bit of space, a little bit of, chill down for a minute. I kind of the world stopped, and that allowed me to sort of stop for a second.
Yeah.
Frenetic for quite some time. So first I appreciate it, but I definitely have had the ups and downs that I'm sure everybody has had as a result of lockdown. The wee things that you end up missing that you don't really realize you wouldn't have thought, and it takes you a bit of unpack. It's like, what, something's missing here, and you can't really unpack what it is. And like performing and doing live shows and singing for people is something that I've pegged as being a thing that I'm suffering for lack of, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's that sort of feedback, that sort of it seems sort of shallow, but that validation I've discovered is worryingly necessary. For me.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think one of the things that I've faced as well is just like for lack of a better word, the paranoia and not being able to see people and thinking there's something in you that's almost like, is everybody annoyed at me?
Oh yeah, I had a thing like that. I had a thing like that for sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's without some sort of reassurance, just subtle ambient reassurance. I've certainly found that I can go into a place of, paranoia, of self-doubt and that sort of thing. So it's very, very subtle things, very interesting subtle things that can happen to a person when there's a sort of certain social element is just stripped away. It's a very interesting social experiment that we've all been part of for a year.
Aye.
Well, right. But yeah, I get it. I've had the same sort of thing. It's just some subtle element that's you didn't realize was completely necessary, torn away, and the fallout. You can pick up the pieces later and figure out, actually, that is a very important thing that I didn't realize was very important before. But yeah,
I've got to say, I'm impressed that you're like so within yourself that you can actually be like, I miss people applauding me everywhere I go. Like that takes a level of like confidence that I appreciate.
Yeah, I've a lot of time to think, a lot of time to overthink, and a lot of time to analyze, and probably too self-reflective for my own good. in a lot of senses. But yeah, I think that's something I pinpointed, that my self-esteem is this is something that I've identified, and I think I need to change for my own sake. But my self-esteem, in a sense, is dependent and contingent on validation from people. Right? I didn't think that was the case, but I have to admit it is, and it's actually.
I think we're on the same boat.
The level of validation that I need is literally a room full of people all clapping at me and saying, "Yes, Tom, you're doing a good job." And without that level of just blatant, explicit validation, then self-doubt starts to creep in.
Super interesting that as well, mate,
super interesting, and it's quite worrying to realise that self-esteem is that fragile.
What you're explaining is what a lot of people don't find out until they retire. Like, we see, like, sports stars, musicians, famous people just go off the fucking rails, like, when their career ends, and that's when something like an addiction or whatever rears its ugly head. And I've never really thought about it, like, obviously they're missing the limelight to a certain extent, but I've never ever thought about it like their whole sort of human validation is built upon thousands of people screaming their name. But if that's the norm for them, then that's what their brain's literally looking about, going, where are all my fans? Like, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah,
I think as well, it's going to be quite difficult given like the size of the band, that when all of this kind of like walks down, like, these are also probably spent a fair amount of time separate from each other, when you would have normally, especially in the build up to like a launch, been working quite closely together.
Yeah, certainly. It'd been hard for the writing process was hard without the normal collaboration there, or definitely hindered or stunted, and yeah, for sure that the normal bouncing off kind of strategy that I would normally use is not available to me. So that certainly affects the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
You were mentioning there about the sports stars. You made me think about specifically Paul Gascoigne, right? That was making me think about Paul Gascoigne, probably the epitome of the guy who just completely went off the rails, and as a result of his career coming to end. And yeah, that's something I can see where that comes from. This if your identity, this is what I've identified as well. My identity is completely wrapped up in let's be honest, quite a silly music project, right? But it's become that way, and I'm it's so tied up in that failure starts to feel like a serious existential threat, and that's something I think I've identified in the months of overthought that I've been allowed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go so far to say that your music project's silly, but I know I think when you compare it to Life and Death, it's almost like in proportion, and I think that when your mind starts to throw up these sort of signals of like, we're in danger here because you can't play music, I think you're right in saying like that's maybe something that you could address. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, especially I feel like the music industry has been one of the biggest hit industries by this. I mean, we're hearing about small businesses and stuff, but I mean, the arts have been especially badly hit. Like, has it been a difficult time for yourself, like even just getting by, like making money and stuff? Because I know for the last time we spoke, you did a lot of sort of jams, and did a lot of work, like maybe doing like sort of no function, but you know what I mean, like house band stuff.
Yeah, so, for sure. Yeah, I mean that's made my living for a number of years there from doing weddings and so on. So obviously all that stopped. I've not really worked for a year. I mean, quite morbidly, actually, the only gigs that I've really done is I've done 2 funerals, right? That's the situation there. We get as a sort of New Orleans brass band outfit, so that's the only gigs that I've done really over the last year. So I haven't worked. However, on a sort of practical level, actually, I've felt quite well supported. I was able to take advantage of the self-employed furlough scheme. So on a practical financial level, I've been fine, but on a sort of social and psychological level, it's been a little bit more patchy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hopefully we get some good music out the other side.
How has your retraining for Cyber been going?
I mean, one of the guys is driving for Amazon now. A lot of the guys are. I'm doing deliveries. I'm delivering food. I'm delivering food on my bike. You know, from a mate's vegan food restaurant. So I'm doing something different. I sort of thought that those days were behind me. I'm like, okay, good. I'm a musician now, and that's it. So there's a bit of a sort of humbling moment when I'm like, okay, well, okay, I'm going to go back, jump on my bike again, and start delivering burritos again, which I thought like those days are done. I'm not cycling about in the wet anymore. I'm doing it. If you order a burrito, I might come and deliver it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you're not the only one that's started doing that. I've seen PTs at my local gym coming up doing Uber Eats, and I'd say, like, I mean, it's shite that you've had to do that, but also, like, I think it's more testament to you as a person, because we're seeing quite a lot of people that have just sort of just sat back and just let it overwhelm them. And the fact that you're out there on your bike delivering burritos, it's just showing that you've got that sort of like get up and go. And also that you can claim the SSIE payment shows that you're a tax-paying member of society, Tom.
That's right. I'm glad. I'm glad that honestly, that's the first time that I've felt glad about paying taxes. And you know what? I did. I paid a lot of taxes. There's a couple of years we're doing well with the wedding, so it all worked out. So in that sense, I've been comfortable enough.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to hear what it feels like for somebody, because, like, in my eyes, we spoke the last time about the musicianship in the band, and it's incredible. You're an incredible guitar player, singer, writer as well. But I would like to hear, like, how does it feel for somebody that's probably like worked in their craft pretty much their whole life, or like, I would say, like, since a teenager, for a billionaire to come out and just go and retrain and find something else. Like, what you've been doing is not valid anymore. Because I mean, my girlfriend's a ballet teacher, and honestly, man, she nearly fucking put her head through the TV when he was giving that speech.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got a funny stance on it. Like, it's a sort of self-defeating kind of self-effacing stance on it, and I've got a tendency to sort of devalue what I do and devalue the arts as daft folly. But that's some sort of weird self-effacing thing that's deep ingrained in there, and that nobody else and other musicians, you know, have anything of. But it's in there for some reason. It's in there. So when they're saying retraining and all that, I was thinking, oh well, it was nice while it lasted, but I guess I mean, like, after the nuclear war, nobody's going to want somebody to sing a song, you know, at them. So that's I
don't know, man. I was just saying just before you came on that, like, we were always listening to the single ahead of time and stuff like that, and I was like, I think this year is the year for, like, bright poppy, but I think we need the escapism out. So yes,
that's true, and that as soon as I expounded that sort of doubt in the value of what I mean, I just there's a tendency to doubt my own value, right? That's maybe something that's in there. But as soon as I do expound that sort of thing, that's what everyone comes back to me with. This, like, no, what you're doing is important. Art's important. It's what makes it worth living for a lot of people is these sort of creations.
Absolutely.
And that's quite reaffirming and encouraging. But yeah, I have to admit that there's some thread in there, ingrained in there from what I don't know, but that automatically sort of a kind of ambient devaluation of you know, what I'm doing.
The therapist in me wants to ask more questions about that, but I'm going to move away.
Yeah.
I'm going to move away from that.
You catch me side-eyeing you there, dude.
I think, like, it actually leads on to a question that I had about, like, do you think this could have a lasting effect in the arts? And what I was actually, like, meaning by that is that if you're a 13, 14-year-old kid, and, like, I think that we already get faced, if somebody was to go to their mum and say, I want to be a singer, or I want to be a musician, or I want to be an actress, or I want to be a painter, it's almost like the parents dread. They're like, oh, here we go. You're going to live one of these types of life where you're going to be scratching your arse for the rest of your days. Or, but as we come out the other side of this, and like you're saying, it's almost like you're saying, devaluing it a bit, because we can't really practice the arts. Do you think that there'll be a generation of people lost?
It's hard to say, you know. It's hard to say what the next generation of musicians or people are going to be like, you know, because I think there's lots of different things that are shaping how that's turning out. Like mainly technology, but if this sort of situation is going to affect the next generation of musicians, I don't know. I think it's not just this. It's also just the way the music industry was going anyway. That is sort of devaluing it a little bit more, and you know, the fact that everything's gone streaming now, and that's devalued music as a product in general. That's sort of been on the cards for past 5-6 years now anyway. So I think maybe that's more a factor in that kind of that possible denigration of the next generation of musicians, because although I mean I think never really tried properly with music, because I always thought, okay, it's a pipe dream, like nobody can really actually make it. That's a mad thing. So that's why it took me until I was, you know, 29 or 30 or whatever it was to actually, you know, make a go of it, because I already had that inbuilt anyway. So I dare say the situation with the industry, and probably with fallout from this situation, may well cause a lot more people to have that in the back of there. Because if I hadn't had that when I was young, and you know, my teens, my early 20s, I probably would have had a shot at probably doing music, but I just didn't. I thought it's never going to work out. It's never going to work out.
That point you had on, you know, the sort of technology side of it moving forward, like this is something again that we kind of touched on prior to you joining us, was that I'd seen Caveman and was it Battle Station that you were doing?
Yeah,
Battle Weapons, sorry. No, in between visits, you know, no long after the last time you were in, this was like a kind of, felt like it was almost like a kind of online like concept album that was kind of happening like live via, you know, YouTube. And when you're talking about that move of technology and, you know, fans maybe becoming more like subscribers and stuff like that, is that something that you're like actively trying to explore there?
I think it's a necessary strategy to try and embrace whatever changes in the landscape are happening. So I don't know if that particular thing was an attempt at that. Maybe so. Maybe having like the Battle Weapons, which was a number 10 or 12 short, like minute long or less pieces. Those sort of things are geared towards like Instagram. You know, I can't deny that's a factor in the way that was put together.
Yeah.
But the whole project was actually quite an interesting and rad project. Quite proud of it. You know, the Battle Weapons as a whole, as a sister and beat sort of a compatriot, a counterpart to this Caveman thing, which is super the darkest, most explicitly sad thing, and then alongside the most explicitly joyous, ridiculous, throwaway, fun thing, you know, both of them things. Because previously I've sort of melded both those elements together, like harsh darkness, kind of packaged in super high. But this way I sort of separated them out and tried to do something like that. Separated those two things out, and that was kind of the MO of the project, because that's what I sort of try to talk about with the project. That these two elements exist. These two elements exist in the human condition, and certainly in me, the down and the up, and both must be acknowledged and embraced as part of the whole. So that's sort of what I was going for. Quite conceptual, quite an ambitious concept.
It was cool. I enjoyed what I seen out.
Yeah. So some people have picked up on that, but you know, I'm quite happy with the artistic sentiment of it, and if people get it, I'm happy. If they don't get it, if they just enjoy the tune, I'm also happy, you know.
We were talking before we came on about, like, I think I had mentioned the Foo Fighters project, I can't really remember what the Sonic Highways, where they basically
that was a cool project.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's listening and hasn't seen it, basically what they did is they went to a different city and then they worked with a different local group of the sort of top musicians and the style. So it was such a cool project when I think back on it. They've done so much, the Foo Fighters, that it just gets lost in like everything that he tries to do. But what me and Matt were talking about is that the world seems to want access now. Like you used to. I'd use the example pre-recording at Eddie Hall. So Eddie Hall's like world's strongest man, but the fans of him would have to just watch that event to see the guy that they like. But now he does his YouTube. They want to see how he trains. They want to see how he eats. They want to see how basically he puts together like the world's strongest man. And I feel like music's missing that. I mean, we did used to get DVDs along with the CDs back in the day, and you'd put it in and it'd be like maybe a 15-minute clip, but people want this like weekly access to people, and I feel there's a place there for music where I don't know if it's vlogging, the creative process. I don't know if that's something that you think you'd be up for yourself. Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, this is something that's come up a few times. I guess it's the sort of Patreon model. A lot of musicians, when in the absence of gigs, have started taking back Patreon, which I've thought about. And that seems to be a new kind of dynamic in the content landscape, right? For want of a better phrase. Christ.
You've got to be an influencer soon, Tom.
I know.
Oh man, it's just it's necessary.
We've accidentally ended up in cyber anyway.
Yeah. I have to that sort of thing. If you don't want to get left behind, I suppose it's a bit annoying. I'm fairly technophobic, and but it's just what I got to do, I think. So yeah, the sort of the Patreon model of having more and more insights, more and more content. This is the thing, more and more content, right? Content with a capital C that isn't music. Like this is the thing. Like I'm a musician in a band, and presumably the primary form of product that I should be hitting out with is songs and music, right? But it's becoming smaller and smaller a proportion of what I think a musician's supposed to do now. So then that's exactly it. So we've got a song coming out this Friday, but for the past month I've just been planning its release and preparing content and sorting all that out, because that's such a significant and necessary part of hoping for the actual song to be heard and accepted and be maybe a success, whatever that means. You know what I mean?
I think having listened to the single today, fans of users are going to be extremely happy with it. I mean, I kind of had that wee flashback to the days when I like almost was like waiting for like the new Oasis album to come out, and that first single, and the feeling you'd get when you heard like A Hindu Times for the first time, and you're like, yes, Oasis are back. And like the day hearing the album was a bit like Tom McGuire and the Brassholes are back. Like this is like right on the money for nice. What you're extremely good at.
Great, thanks for that. I appreciate that. That's reassuring. It's like tiny little bits of reassurance like that is very helpful. Yeah, because I'm very aware that it's been a long time for us to have start releasing sort of proper releases again. So I'm super excited for that. I'm super excited for the people who've been waiting for that. Doubtless a bit of apprehension, if it doesn't go down well, people don't care. But it's just the demons that are saying, doubt yourself, yes. But then that's the thing. This is a necessary thing when you're making something and releasing it. It's there's a vulnerability there. So,
big time.
But I have great confidence that what we've made is absolutely fucking rad as fuck, and everyone's gonna dig it. Because it's totally dope, and yeah, and it feels really good to have that after a reasonable period of doubt and sort of self-created oil there's been a sort of symptom of this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you been sitting on this song for a while?
I wrote it about a year ago, I guess. Sort of inspired or stimulated by the Bill Withers passing, which is about a year ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, we're locked down, and I was sort of trying to overcome a bit of a writer's block, which kind of was precipitated by spending a year and a half fanning about on Instagram rather than writing songs. Released an album and then became a content creator, and doing gigs, but not really having any energy or time to like write. So that's a muscle. If you don't use it, you forget how to use it. So I found myself thinking, okay, right, I find myself under pressure to write, and get myself into all sorts of tangles and holes with that, and overthinking things. And as I said, we're in lockdown, so it was just me. So I didn't have that sort of very useful collaborative bouncing off thing. So getting stuck in a hole of overthought about just tiny little decisions that don't really matter, and just sort of losing perspective, losing sight of what the goal is. And the goal is to be a singer and sing. The main thing is all this is the whole song, music, all the instrumentation, all the band members, they're all just instruments and tools in order to the band members are all tools. No, you know what I'm trying to say. The song, the music is a vehicle, as a platform for the singer in this type of music, sort of soulful music, to express immediate human experience.
I think I held a progression. Like, I've got to say, like, I feel like, for lack of a better phrase, it feels like it's simpler but more impactful music, in the sense that the first album, as a musician, I mean, I'm listening to the guitar parts and I'm like, holy shit, man, listen to the guys wailing on guitar and stuff. But part of like my education in music was that not everybody likes that, by the way. Like, not everybody likes busy music. Some people like space.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that something that you did intentionally to try and like?
Absolutely intentionally. So that's exactly what happened. I was getting just bogged down in all this, these tiny little details, these little arrangement things that don't really matter and aren't really that fulfilling for me. Certainly not if I'm doing it by myself. It's something maybe if a band together in a room creates, then it's cathartic and fun, and there's it's quite an enriching experience. But just noodling away myself in a room all alone, isolated, doing that sort of stuff is not fulfilling whatsoever for me. What's fulfilling is singing and express myself through that. So everything else should be instrumental to make that. And so I did make it specifically simple. I simplified everything right down, and it was kind of as a result of thinking about Bill Withers, because I was in this sort of blocked up mode, sort of getting all clogged up with details that don't matter. And Bill Withers passed away, and there was a lot of sort of retrospectives on him on television and on the internet. And there was an interview that he'd done, and obviously I've always loved Bill Withers. He's one of the classics, a definite touchstone. But he said something in an interview that just struck me like really right at the right time, and it was he was talking about his own composition and his own guitar playing, because he accompanied himself on his guitar, but he's like not great. He's not good, really, objectively. But he said, talking about guitar, I've got just enough ability to be able to accompany myself so I can sing, and that's what it's all about. And that was
just pretty much one of the lines that I picked up on when we were listening to it, was that I think there's a line along that all I need is my guitar and my voice.
Yeah,
and I was
that
specific line really did bring sort of Bill Withers to my mind, because I'm obviously, Shields will tell you, like, daft for soul music, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So that's exactly it. So that struck me. I thought, right, he's right. That's what I should be doing. I'm supposed to be just crafting songs so I have something to sing for people. That the main goal is for me to be able to sing something. So everything else is just a medium for that to be achieved. So I started writing the song. I was sort of floating around, a couple of melodies floating around, but I started writing the song, and every time I started to get into a little bit more complex thing, I had to pull myself back and say, stop. This one is supposed to be simple, and it's one of the simplest songs I've written. I mean, the whole arrangement is quite complicated, but in terms of harmony and sort of structure, it's simple. The song, the actual song itself, the lyrics and the composition of the song. There's more to that, but the music is one of the simplest things I've written. I did that on purpose. I restrained myself. I said I put myself in strict limits, and every time I start to get a little bit fancy, I had to slap myself in the hand and go back and say, "Oh,
make yourself."
And I had to do that. I had to do that quite a lot of times.
Absolutely, and I think that the byproduct for that of me, as somebody that's a fan and has listened, is that I listened to the song. I wasn't listening to the guitar playing or the bass or the drums. I was listening to the song, and it actually kind of reminded me of sort of Paolo Nutini. What was the album that he did? It was an incredible album, but I'm not a massive
Lost the Glove.
Yeah, it reminded me of that. And I actually thought that your voice sounded a bit like his voice, which is a compliment, by the way, because I think the guy's got a great voice. But that's what really I was like, well, this is kind of Paolo Nutini.
I'm conscious that we've been talking about the single for 5 minutes without mentioning its name. So for anybody wanting it.
Super Solid Soul Vehicle.
Soul Vehicle.
It's out probably by the time you're listening to this. It's out now on all stream platforms.
Yeah.
From Tom McGuire The Brassholes.
I'm going to try and get a quick edit done on this and put this out tomorrow. Because I know that the release is on Friday. So I'd like to try and put this out, maybe get a couple of hundred listens on it, and if anybody wants to go and listen to it, if I don't get to that, it'll be early next week. But yeah, Super Solid Soul Vehicle, and I think that I would like to give you the opportunity. What mode would you prefer people to get it? I mean, obviously Spotify and Apple Music, you get absolutely next to fuck all for those streams and stuff. So if somebody was to say, I've enjoyed what I've heard and I want to support, where would you like them to go and get it?
Yeah, cool. So you can purchase it on Bandcamp, but you can also purchase it on the Apple Music, and then maybe perhaps just maybe we'll rise to the top of the soul charts. Help us in our journey towards the top of the charts.
Let's get Arab Strap and Mogwai roped in, and let's get 3 Scottish number ones in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, if you want to support, you can get download it off Bandcamp, or you could download it, purchase it in Apple Music, or you can also visit our website. We're going to be I've not announced this yet, but I might as well just say it now. We're going to be selling t-shirts. It says Super Solid Soul Vehicle, a very specific t-shirt, and we've shot a video, so I don't really give too much away, but it's a very specific t-shirt which has got a very, very specific reference to it that I'm not sure how many people are going to get, but it's a very Easter eggy, quite an Easter egg reference, and so we'll be selling some t-shirts too.
Definitely keep an eye for that. Yeah, we'll have an exclusive.
Yeah, you can visit the website. You can also pick up our debut record there on vinyl. So that's a great way to support us. We've got loads of vinyl, so you can help us transport those non-liquid commodities into liquid currency, which we can spend. So that's what you can do.
Recording more music. Is there an album next? Is it?
There will be an album in that whole period over the summer where I was just locked away in the shed trying to write and beating myself up. I definitely did write loads and loads and loads of fucking music, like 30 or 40 songs. Half of them are probably not good and half of them are good, and then half of them are like really good, right? So there's definitely an album there. We've recorded a few singles that we're going to be releasing throughout the year, probably every couple of months. So this is going to be the first of several singles, and whenever we can get into a studio together, we'll record a full record, which I'm looking forward to, and release that. So yeah, it's going to be a year of
Content with a capital C, like you said.
Yeah, content, and the content's going to be predominantly music, right? It's going to be music, because we're a band, right? And bands are supposed to do music, and I'm a singer, so I'm going to sing mostly. I'm going to try to spend as little time fanning about on Instagram and the maximum amount of time fucking actually singing songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's superb, mate. Superb.
That's the goal.
I mean, I just wanted to give you that opportunity. I mean, normally we do that at the end, but we may as well do that there. And I think that part of what me and Matt are aiming to do when we come out of lockdown is actually give the platform to musicians, because, like we were saying earlier, hardest hit people, and it's important for people to know where you would like you're saying, the Patreon thing. Like comedians, all the American comedians are all on YouTube going, sign up to my Patreon. This is where I want you to come and consume my content. The YouTube stuff's free, but if you like me and you want to take it that step further, I think it's important that we do that for musicians as well, and find out where they get their money from, where they can create a revenue stream. So I just thought that was really important.
I think as well this year, as much as it's important to support musicians and artists getting back out into the world, like I think right now the Scottish music scene, out with even just yourselves, is like absolutely dynamite. And there's a lot of really like seriously high quality bands kicking about, a lot of really good artists, like a lot of like excellent pop music driven by like young Scottish women and stuff like that, which is quite a novel. So I'm quite excited about maybe getting some more musicians in and letting them talk to us about what they're up to.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, it's like you said, the landscape is quite damaged right now. So all the support that can be afforded is great. Yeah, I guess the way you can support musicians is if you like the music, you can definitely seek out a way to actually pay for it. Most people normally put stuff in Bandcamp as well. So if you listen to a record on Spotify, lots of times, maybe just jump onto Bandcamp and buy it, you know. And when a show happens, when they're playing a gig in the town near you, buy a ticket and go and see it, because that's the main thing, you know. That's the way.
Absolutely, can't wait to get back to a gig. I think it'll be like one of the first things on the list. Just find any band and go and see them and drink beer at the back like an old dad that I'm off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Snake bite at the Barrowlands. Talking about gigs.
Oh, aye. So obviously, you know, you were in the last time. We were like not in any way like bashful about how much we enjoyed the band. I've been following you almost religiously since. Was aware that, you know, he's booked I don't know if he's got to play in them, but he's certainly booked a few gigs with Craig Charles for the Funk Show. And I think in like British terms, like, you know, you talk about that doubt and whatever else, but like I don't think there's a more ringing endorsement in like UK media for a funk band than to be as sort of readily associated with the Funk Show. Like that has got to have been a pretty good quality of taking. Yeah,
it was great. It's great opportunity to have been able to play those shows. Yeah, we played. We supported them twice. It is sort of funk and soul party at the end of the year. Both times in the O2 Academy, and that was great to do it. We supported them once down in Manchester too. However, I don't know. I'm actually uncertain as to whether we've been played on his show, on his radio show, and I think this is the story. I won't go too much in the details, but I think we kind of upset him. We annoyed him once, and I'm sort of trying to fight back some possibility that we've annoyed him and alienated ourselves from him. Basically, we did a Twitter campaign. It's called #Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, I got involved with that.
That. Basically, I won't go into the whole story, but we, after one of these O2 shows, we went down into the dressing room and said hello. And the short version is like that Twitter thing, the #Blitzkrieg thing. He didn't like that. He wasn't happy with that.
Oh,
okay.
He was pretty raging actually. But we sort of he wasn't raging, but he was it annoyed him.
Yeah.
And he was forthcoming about the fact that annoyed him.
Did he tell you why it annoyed him?
You just said it's annoyed me. He said that's not how it works, lads. But we sort of squared up. I was a wee bit iffy for a wee second, but I said, "Oh, listen, you know what? I mean, we're just a hard-working band doing a hustle.
Man.
Hopefully, you can understand that, and that doesn't, color is in your eyes is annoying, useless. arseholes or anything like that. And we had a bit of a chat with him, so that's all right. But I don't think we've been played in the show, and I hope he doesn't bear a grudge. But yeah, that we annoyed him on Twitter.
I wish I'd went with the George Clinton question now, to be honest with you.
I'm not holding out hope. Hopefully, this next single will get a play in his show, and maybe his annoyance has dampened down a little bit.
Yeah,
and,
don't start a Twitter campaign to get him to play.
Don't start. That's what. Listen, let me tell you this: for any aspiring musicians out there, don't start Twitter campaigns and annoying the DJ that is the foremost proprietor of your type of music in the country. Don't do that, because it might not serve you well.
Here for the public service announcements.
Yeah,
for sure, mate. What's it like taking that step up to that? Is it like? I mean, I've played in that stage in the Academy in Glasgow, and it's like a fucking. It's mammoth. I mean, I think the gig before that, when I played that venue, was like Sleazy's or Tuts, and you're like cramped onto a stage with 5 or 6 other people, and then you're basically like you've got a space in the world, and it feels like the place is echoey. But what was it like taking that step up? And do you prefer the more intimate venues, or do you like the sort of big stage?
I like both. I mean, that still feels pretty intimate, you know. We played those. I mean, those shows, they weren't our crowd. We were supporting somebody else. Like a lot of people in the crowd knew of us, and it was an audience for the right type of music. It wasn't our crowd, you know what I mean? So you kind of have to work a little bit harder to not very hard. Like you could just be yourself and do your show, but there's a less security there. It's more like, okay, right, there's a battle here. We're gonna win this crowd. And it's like there's not this sort of easy, pressure-free sort of thing of these are all people who like you and have bought a ticket to see you. So that the only pressure there is doing a good job for them, and that's still a job. That's still something you have to make sure and do. But it's a slightly different vibe from tackling a crowd that's not specifically your crowd. Both are fun, both are good, but we've played big shows that were all our crowd as well. You know, we did album launch and sold out the QMU, which is unbelievable actually now I think about it. And that was
an incredible
pictures for the Candle Rigs market as well. That I seen I was supposed to be there that night and couldn't make it for another reason, but then seen a lot of pictures and footage, and that looked like an absolutely fucking brilliant gig. So it did.
In the Candle
Rigs? Fruit Market? Was it the Fruit Market? Was it Candle Rigs?
We did one in the square.
Aye.
One in the square, and that was part of the Merchant City Festival.
Yeah,
that was actually a mental show. I think it was a free show, so that was pretty jumping. But it was last summer, and it was in the middle of that heat. I'm just remembering something happened. Right, it was in the middle of summer, and there was a super heavy duty heat wave. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah,
it's a week or two, and it was like
July.
Yeah, like a hottest on record for however many years. But it was very, very hot, and we were playing, and we're sweltering hot.
Because it's basically a greenhouse for anybody that doesn't know the venue.
Yeah, it's sort of a greenhouse too. But we were playing a show, doing a couple of sets. It wasn't all of our crowd. It was people just coming in and being part of the festival. But we were crushing it, and we were winning them over. And I was opening up the show a little bit. I was going into the crowd and doing, I like to do that sort of thing. I like to mix up and involve the crowd in whichever way I can. And we were absolutely sweltering, and I was mentioning, "Oh, we're absolutely sweltering! Look at how sweaty we are!" Like, do this, and they said, "Is anybody got? Give us some ice! You got some ice?" Because the whole place is sort of bordered by bars and restaurants and stuff like that. And somebody came up with a tray of ice, right? And I'm like, "Oh, thank you, yeah, thank you. We got some ice. Give up for the ice." And I just like chucked the ice over myself, and I just started rubbing it myself. This. I was like, yeah, and then I realised shortly after that it wasn't ice, it wasn't crushed ice, it was like a lemon slushy, like a fucking sticky lemon. And I was just like covered myself. I was like, wow. She'd run and say, "Come on!"
Oh mate.
And then like that was halfway through the set. I still had an hour to play, and I was just like close to sticking.
Oh
And,
man.
To yourself.
Yeah, and I think I had
Amazing.
I had a gig to go to afterwards. Oh, this is it. Yeah, I had a gig to go to afterwards, and like just a pub gig. You know, I had just a work gig afterwards, just round the corner.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a change of shirt, and fucking shirt was covered in sticky and gross and smoking. And I swapped shirts with a guy in the crowd. A guy came up and swapped me a shirt, and it's a shame. It was my favourite shirt. Gone. See you later. And I just gave me this shirt, and then I had something else to wear for my other gig.
Oh mate, that's hilarious.
Mental.
Swapped shirts with some guy who was in the crowd, and because I covered myself in a lemon slushy. Yeah, and then that was quite fun. You know that in the middle of festival season, that's when every show, like, there's always something different about every show, and there's something cool to do, something cool about the stage to utilize, or the crowd that are there. And that, I'm sort of really lamenting the loss of the festivals this year, and hopefully there'll be a few good ones next year.
Yeah,
we're on a real roll for that sort of stuff, and it was good.
One of the other bands that I've seen, and I obviously I'll come round to the question with George Clinton. When he's booked, is it supporting? Is it Parliament or is it George Clinton?
I mean, I think it's just George Clinton. I think, as far as I'm aware, Parliament's just a name that he can use or not use. Actually, I'll be honest, the whole Parliament Funkadelic George Clinton scenario, what belongs to what and what is what, is actually very confusing. I don't know
we were a bit fuzzy on it beforehand as well, but in terms of that progression that Paul's been talking about in the past, like, it certainly feels like a step up into, almost kind of like, I mean, these guys are the Champions League territory, and that royalty. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to have been pretty awesome to get that booked, even though I don't think it came to pass with all the COVID stuff, did it?
Yeah, it's rescheduled for this year, but whether that's going to happen, it's unclear. But fingers crossed it'll go ahead. It was supposed to be his very last ever tour, so hopefully when it does get rescheduled, he's still up for it. It still happens. Yeah, that would be a real boon. He's obviously royalty and a pioneer of funk. You can see the tendrils of inspiration, and influence from that starting point. So that would definitely be a nice little feather in the cap to do that one.
Fingers crossed, man.
Yeah.
I think that's another example of the things that people are missing out on. You know what I mean? Like, that's an opportunity to play with a hero. And unfortunately, like you're saying, it's just getting pushed down the line. But like Matt's saying, fingers crossed it actually happens. Do you think you'll get to meet him?
Maybe so. I would hope so. I mean, it's we know where we've been in that building. It's an O2, so we know where the dressing rooms are.
So if you don't get an introduction, you're going to find a way.
Yeah, we just have to make sure not annoy him as well.
Nate tweeting him beforehand.
There's only so many conversations like that I can have with heroes. There's only so many I can have.
There's a question that I actually had that came up that we kind of naturally went away for, and it was about like your creative process. Like, you'd said that you'd hit some writer's block, which is common. I think that the pressure of the second album, even though I know you personally have wrote many albums in the past, and by the way, that Madafaka thing that went on SoundCloud was fucking incredible, man. Like, I loved it. I couldn't get to Sleazy's, but just because it sold out, I was like, what the fuck? Like, you did a gig in Sleazy's, was it 18 months ago or something like that? Is that right?
Yeah.
I wandered over, they weren't letting anybody in, so I was like, fuck bastard, I've missed that. But superb, man. Like, I couldn't believe how good it was.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks for mentioning it. Yeah, I relish a chance for people to find out about that, about Madafaka, which was my brutal metal band, and the 20-minute rock opera about Cool Runnings.
Yeah. What's it called? It's
called the Blade in the Ice.
The Blade in the Ice. Yeah, it's so good. I mean, I shared it with so many people sending it.
I got multiple tweets about it.
But that was just me. Like, obviously, you've been involved in many projects, so you've been through that process a number of times. But You said that you just locked yourself in the shed. Was that how you overcame the writer's block? Was it just I'm just going to knuckle down here and just get through this?
Yeah, there's a certain just pushing through you have to do, but it's like you're not supposed to sort of force that sort of thing, and I think that's what does contribute to a block is that you force something that's just supposed to be organic and good, like that. So I guess the block comes from and I read quite a lot about it because I was trying to figure out the source of it. The block comes from self-doubt and worry, and identifying with the product as a intrinsic part of who you are, and if it's bad, then you're bad, right? Which is obviously it's just, you can delve into that sort of psychology, and there's a lot to it there, and that's why a lot of people talk about the war of art. But it's all to do with overthought. It's all to do with deliberation, over deliberation of things that aren't important, and about kind of squashing down your creativity and squashing down, because this is one of the things. It's called the artist's way, right? It's the artist's way. It's this sort of quite an esoteric kind of hippy dippy self-help type program.
Okay.
But it's based on a couple of quite useful practical things, and you just have to sort of scan over the bits that sound too schmaltzy and ridiculous. But it's based on a couple of sort of things, and I was sort of following this wee program, and it definitely worked. And it's one of the tenets is the creative element in a person is like a child. It's playing. But if you're constantly berating and shouting at and beating down on this child, then it's fucking not going to come out. It's just going to sit there and like hide away, and that's exactly it. So there's a sort of, you have to sort of nurture that part of you, and when you're just sort of doubting and fearful and stress and putting pressure on it, then it's not going to work out at all for you. So there's an interesting bit of theory there, and I think there's something to it.
Definitely.
And what's the root of it is most certainly pressure and expectation. We did a sick record, like the second record thing. It's a thing. It's a fucking thing. I get it. The first record, nobody cares. Nobody knows who you are. You're just sharting something out and fucking flinging stuff at a canvas, see what sticks. And then all of a sudden, the weight of expectation is in the second one, and also your identity and all your self-worth is attached to it. And that immediately just fucks you up, and that's you ruined. So you have to make sure you're not falling in that trap. I certainly fell into that trap, and sort of scrabbled to get out of it, and I've done it. And one of the tools is that I've used is this philosophy of Bill Withers that I sort of latched onto, the remembering to sing. Singing is a paramount thing. The singer is the important thing, and everything else is merely a platform, a catalyst for that, or to allow that to happen. So yeah, just regaining perspective.
Yeah,
but it's a battle. It's a battle, and it's something that I think all artists, all creatives,
absolutely, mate. Have you ever heard "Catching the Fire" by, who was the guy that made Twin Peaks? David Lynch.
Right.
David Lynch wrote a book called Catching the Fire or Catching the Flame, and it's about how he nurtures his creativity, and it's very like what you were saying. It's all very sort of like wooey, but his sort of philosophy is that creativity is not part of you. You need to get yourself into a state where you can access creativity, but we've all got access to this thing that is creativity, and if you try and be creative, you won't do anything great.
Yeah.
As soon as you stop trying and just let it flow out of you, and it will flow through you. But that, like you're saying, people take personal responsibility, and his whole thing was, I don't see my art as a baby. It's just something that I'm a vessel to give to people, and once I've made it, it's not part of me. so he doesn't identify with it. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I should check that out. I think I've heard that referenced somewhere. But yeah, that's exactly it. It's just conditioning yourself and making sure you're going to be able to, for want of a better term, be attuned to the creative life force, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And make sure you have the tools available to you that you can do it when it's there. And if you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself and you're attaching all of your self-worth to it, and just beating yourself up about it, that's the recipe for not managing to do it. So yeah, I sort of I try to work myself through that, but also just write anyway, just write whatever, just not being afraid to just write shite. Just so I wrote 40 songs, and a lot of them are just ones I've shouted out, and I can't remember them, and I'll never think about them again. But they're a necessary process, because it's like sharpening the tool. Song it's a tool that you need to keep sharp. It's a muscle that you need to keep working, and that's part of the problem as well. Like a year and a half, I didn't do anything because I was too busy with other stuff, and it's a muscle that you have to train, and I did. I trained it like fuck over the summer, and like you maybe picked up on that. When you were talking about what you were hearing with the new tune is you're listening to the song rather than music, and that's a goal. So thanks for that, because that's the goal I've been aiming for and working hard, and sort of like gone through a bit of a battle to try and achieve to perfect the art, hone the craft, and sort of sharpen the tool of songwriting, rather than just writing Raj grooves and Raj riffs and then singing something over the top. I've striven to become an actual songwriter, a real songwriter, or more of a songwriter, and I think I've cracked.
For sure.
What's the word? Broken the back of it, at least. I think I've broken the back.
For sure, mate. For sure, mate. The song's brilliant. Like the song is.
It's got pretty much everything I'm looking for in a soul song. It goes for like almost like the intro to like a 70s like blaxploitation film to like finishing off as on almost like a Bond movie. Like there's a pure lovely, almost kind of like soundtracky cinematic thing with it in places as well, which I really dug. Yeah,
we definitely tried to capture a certain aesthetic and atmosphere, and it's definitely I'm going back to the roots. I'm going back to the retro kind of soul touchstones, and definitely touchstone is Bill Withers for sure. But yeah, stripping it right back, the whole ethic of it, stripping right back and getting back to the roots of it, regaining perspective, and fucking giving it some from that perspective. And it's a revelation. And yeah, it's also I realise that a lot of the songs now I'm basically they serve as reminders to myself of how to be and how to live, because I'll lose perspective for a bit, and I forget all that shit, and then I'll sing the song and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. They're just like little life lessons to myself to remember, like, fucking stop being such a dick, Tom. Just sing a song and enjoy it, and then that'll be
good all day with that sometimes, eh?
Yeah, mate, and I think the best art is like that. Like, it just reminds us how to be and how to live. So, like, I love that, mate. I absolutely love that. I mean, that's sort of we're up. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask for?
Are we cool to like use the file to play it on or whatever? Or is there any like copyright issues or any that kind of stuff we need to worry about?
What about the artwork? Am I all right to use the artwork as part of that thumbnail and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, cool. Do you want to play something? I don't know if you would be up for that.
Oh, I'm fucking not warmed up or anything like that, man. I'd fuck up.
No worries, mate. No worries. I'll cut that out at the end, mate. Nice. Listen, man, like, I've really enjoyed this conversation. That's been the quickest hour of the last few weeks for sure, man. I just looked at the clock there. I was like, fuck, man, we've been on for an hour and 5 minutes. But I mean, I genuinely love the song. Like I said, it's been a progression for something. When we did the last interview, I remember going away and I was getting picked up by one of my mates, and I was like, oh, you need to hear this band, mate. Like, had the guy in the podcast, the band's brilliant, put the album on, and he was pure, oh yeah, fucking Tom McGuire, of course I know who this is. I was like, fuck, man. So I'm looking forward to being like, wait to hear the new stuff. I like to be that prick amongst my mates, being like, I know more.
Yeah, I've got the first look. I've got the first look. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, for sure. There's more to come. There's more to come, boys. There's going to be singles, drip feeding singles throughout the year. So there's more where that came from. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Absolutely, mate.
Well, super solid Soul Vehicle out Friday. Like, best of luck with it, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us on again, boys.
I made a promise to whom will not to you, so stop the party. I tried to reconcile a life I lived a while, just stop the party. To call my own, we'll end up burning bridges sat upon a selfish throne. I will march along this path of ambitious, forceful ties. I'll be dead before it crashes down before my eyes. I know we'll make it through smiles and trials of fire. We'll make the party. I see right through it, the great deceptive fate you call a party. I don't need to be unhappy with a life to call my own. We'll end up burning bridges sat upon a selfish throne. I will march along this path of ambitious, forceful ties. I'll be dead before it crashes down before my eyes. There is a life I can see. Life is so predictable, it must be. There is no